Hey guys, welcome to my build guide for Season 13 Werewolf Lacerate build. This one is a fun, lazy, fast speedrunning build that has really just been a blast for me, and I haven't seen a lot of build guides out there yet, so I figured I'd just throw my hat in the ring. I'm safely clearing all T12 content with this pretty much easily. Highest pit I've cleared up so far is 115. My damage isn't quite good enough to go to 120. Top line, how does this build work? Well, the build uses Lacerate as its primary damage source. It uses Malefic Crescent to keep a permanent howl going, which will give you incredible amounts of resource via Tybalt's Will. Other than that, you pretty much toggle on Lightning Storm for a various handful of buffs, and all of the rest of your buttons are passive. And then you run around and hold in one button, and everything dies. Let's hop into the gear here. I am rocking Air of Perdition Helm, no surprise there, it's typically best in slot. I want the GA on crit chance, you really just want to get as close to crit cap as possible. You could also use a Harlequin Crest if you want. Notice here mine has skulls, I'll get into why I do that later. Moving on to the chest, we have a Mad Wolf's Glee. You can't do the build without this, required for the Lacerate strategy. Ideally for all your defensive pieces, you want to have the same kind of stats across most of them, which is generally willpower, max life, armor, all res. Also, maximum resource is a good stat to consider because it directly scales ultimate damage. Under the gloves, I'm using a legendary with the well fortified aspect damage. Realistically, you could use a Dark Howl if you could find a good one. Uniques are always harder to find, so that's why I'm stuck using a legendary here. You really want to get as many damage multipliers as you want between vulnerable, crit, and physical. That's what really makes your damage go up in Season 13. Tybalt's Will is absolutely required for the legs, as it is how you get your resource, and it's also a nice 20% damage multiplier. Tybalt's works to give you your resource, but if you don't have a Tybalt set, you can still do the build with a Spirit Howl on your skill tree. Under the boots, I am using a simple 20% damage while berserking. The resource drain doesn't really do anything, as you get way more than that via Tybalt's Will. As for weapon, I'm using the Vehement Brawlers, which is up to 110% damage bonus for 8 seconds after your ultimate, and of course you're spamming your ultimate. Again, similar stats, you're looking for multipliers on physical, critical, vulnerable, all damage, and of course a GA on weapon damage, if you want to masterwork crit that. Down to the amulet, again, similar stats as everything else, you're looking for multipliers. I put werewolf damage on all my offensive pieces. It's not that great, to be honest. You could do crit damage if you're crit capped, but I'm not quite there, so werewolf better off. This is absolutely required. Keeps your blood howl going 100% uptime. Ring of Star of the Skies for the ring is obviously best in slot here, as it's just a nice 50% multiplier. The resource is not really needed, so could use Mark of the Wolf, Mark of the Old Wolf if you want. If you can get the modifiers up, that could also be a nice one. For my second ring, I'm using Followed Path for the nice multiplier. Again, you're just looking for multipliers on your ring. You want to try and get attack speed and crit caps one way or another, and that's how you're going to get there. Onto the set bonuses, no big surprises here. You have to use the full werewolf set, and then Endurant Faith for your charm, which stacking with the werewolf set is absolutely incredible combination, as one gives you transfers your damage into a damage over time, and the other one gives you a heal with increased healing received. You can kind of be almost unkillable, which I can get into a little bit of that later. Alright, moving on to the skill tree. I am not using the Roar in this build because I don't have a good Dark Howl. I'm using Earth Spike. With the Overpower, although I don't really cast it much, I primarily use that as a way to teleport, because all ranged werewolf abilities become teleports once you get 5 set pieces. They all become teleports, but the melee ones only will teleport if there is a target. The ranged ones will immediately teleport you until you reach a target. So, you can also use the Debilitating Roar with the Spirit version, so you can spam a teleport that way, only if you are using a Dark Howl. I am also using a Lightning Storm toggle. This does a couple things. It keeps the resource spent for Ring of Star of the Skies, and it also makes it so you get a lot of poison procs via Constricting Tentacles Paragon node, and which helps keep up Heightened Malice maxed out as much as possible. And of course, it just looks really cool. Moving on to the defensives. You can see you pretty much just max each of these out. Your passive effect of the Cyclone Armor is what you want, and the Earthen Bulwark via the Rune rocking is how I have it set up there. The Howl, of course, is also triggered by the Malefic Crescent amulet. So you don't actually cast any of these passives. None of them are even on your bar, but you need all 3 of them maxed out. And onto the companion section of the skill tree. None of these are that impactful. The wolves can give you attack speed. The poison, make sure your poison up times 100% on bosses. And the ravens can make sure you have vulnerability. Alternatively, you may want to consider slotting in a slot for Hurricane for the toggle Hurricane with the weakening effect, just to give you a little bit more survivability. And of course, at the bottom of the skill tree, we have Lacerate as your main damage dealer. You go with the Hunter Killer because it gives you the best possible DPS, and then you'll want the extra 10% per hit, good for mobbing. Ferocity you can get somewhere else, so go with the 10% per hit, and then you'll take the extra 5%, which is good for bossing. Alright, so I mentioned earlier the combination between the Endurant Faith and the Werewolf set, and here's a demonstration. So you can heal for more than 100% of the damage you take over 3 seconds, and then Endurant Faith converts all the damage you take, if it's significant, into a dot. Together you get an interaction that makes you, well, unkillable. Incredibly spiky burst damage can kill you, but sometimes it won't even do that. I've been able to tank hits from Uber Mephisto and still just kind of keep going. It's kind of ridiculous. You can see here I'm going to pit just 100, and the enemies are just kind of slapping on me, and they never can kill me. That's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for watching. As a disclaimer, this is all solo self-found, not optimized. I'm happy to take input if anybody's got it. If you watched this far, thanks for watching, and get out there and slap stuff.